I'm News4 Jax's Chief Meteorologist David Eckert. Monday is President's Day, a national holiday where we celebrate all 46 U.S. presidents that we've seen past and current. And the weather and the presidency has always been kind of intertwined, from inaugurations that have been moved indoors, including one of Ronald Reagan's, to big presidential acts like whether to move troop movements or how to attack based on the weather. But there is one president and the weather that are particularly intertwined because some people believe the weather may have actually killed him. And we have to begin with William Henry Harrison. This was way back in the 1840s. In fact, Harrison was the 9th president of the United States. What you need to know about him is the campaign that he ran in 1840 was very, very hard fought and contentious against the incumbent president, President Van Buren. He was running a campaign as a war hero because he fought in several battles in the Midwest and is kind of an outsider. He had what was jokingly called a log cabin campaign, where he actually was somewhat of a rustic guy who lived in the wilderness of the then Midwest. He gets elected to be president, and then he decides that he really wants to show off his education, his statesmanship, and he also wants to show off the fact that he has a lot of vitality. He's elected president at 68 years old, making him the oldest president in that era, and age does become a big issue late in the 1840 presidential campaign. So what does he do? He gives an incredibly long inaugural address, which lasts over almost 2 hours, and he does this in very inclement weather. It is a cold, rainy, damp day in Washington, D.C., and Harrison refuses to wear a hat or an overcoat because he wants to be shown as youthful. Later on, we get reports that he's also walking around the city of Washington without a coat and a hat on inclement weather days. 3 weeks later, he gets severely ill due to pneumonia, and the pneumonia actually kills him. His presidency only lasts a little around a month, and he dies in early April. Now, the conventional wisdom on this is that Harrison likely died from the fact he was out in the cold for such a prolonged period of time, giving a big speech on an elevated stage in the U.S. Capitol. However, there are some scientists that believe that may not actually be the case. I want to take you to a map of Washington, D.C. here. So the White House is right about here on your screen, where basically the G in Washington is. However, the area upstream or north of the White House, this area here, was actually a marsh. And the city of Washington, D.C. did not have a septic system at that time, or a sewer system. So what ended up happening was a lot of the raw sewage ended up floating its way into this marsh, and this marsh is critical because this marsh was where the White House got its drinking water. And these scientists actually believe that Harrison was actually misdiagnosed, that he may have actually gotten typhoid or a paratyphoid fever from drinking the basically sewer water that was coming down from this marsh. Now, Harrison does end up dying. His vice president, John Tyler, becomes president, who becomes the 10th president. He ends up fulfilling Harrison's term. He does not actually end up becoming president in a subsequent term of his own. So whether Harrison died from the weather or whether Harrison died from poor drinking water, that's probably going to remains to be seen over the next several decades. However, what we do know about William Henry Harrison's tenure, it did not come down to his smarts or his statesmanship or even his vitality. It came down to the fact that he barely had a presidency. It only lasted 1 month. Happy President's Day, everyone. I'm Assistant Chief Meteorologist David Eckert for Channel 4, the local station.